Joined now by Nicolai Due-Gundersen. He's a political analyst at Kingston University London. It seems to me, I want to get your sense of this relationship. It seems as though it's a tug of war between two leaders over two religious leaders. Trump wants one released. Erdogan wants one sent back to Turkey. Talk to us about that, and how do you think this is going to shake out?
That's quite accurate. I believe that right now it is, in a sense, a battle of egos. Now, one of the differences recently is that although many analysts felt that Erdogan would demand the extradition of Gulen, his political rival, from the US, recently Erdogan has made overtures saying, look, we will give you Brunson in exchange for a Turkish banker who is in the US on charges of helping Iran circumvent sanctions. In other words, Erdogan seems to have lowered his expectations, and it's now Trump's move.
But you don't see a trade as being likely, do you?
No, I don't. But I do also feel that the sanctions were, in a sense, overestimated. I lived in Turkey for 6 months. I've worked there. And I know from experience that Turkey has its own economy, its own manufacturing hub. It is not dependent on U.S. imports exclusively. I feel that what Trump has done is he has assumed that Turkey is like any stereotypical Middle Eastern country that requires external imports, and this is not the case. So when Erdogan says that we will tackle Trump and that we will close down U.S. franchises in Turkey, we will battle the U.S. sanctions, he is getting a lot of support, and it is not only rhetoric.
Oh, talk to us about the wider consequences of all of this, because Turkey's a NATO ally. It's also key in how things shake out in Syria.
Now, this is also another point that some argue that this case has been building for a while, that Brunson was unfairly pointed out, if you like, to be used as a bargaining chip, because we know that Trump and Erdogan have butted heads before, especially in Syria. Right now, Turkey is deploying in Afrin, the so-called liberation operation. Trump is looking at leaving Assad where he is and exiting from Syria, and they have clashed numerous times. So there are many who argue that this affair really came to blows over things like Syria and over Turkey's role in the Middle East. And we have to remember, as you've mentioned, that Turkey is a NATO ally. So to what extent Trump wants to push his luck will remain to be seen.
So talk to me long term. Where do we see things going?
Well, right now, I think that a lot of people, of course, will mention that the lira has taken a serious beating. Also, the stock market was decreased by 1% in Turkey. Having said that, I think that what we need to focus on domestically is that Turkey remains a manufacturing hub. So its domestic economy is still perhaps not totally strong, but it is still not going to take full damage. We should also remember that the issue with the lira and the issue with Turkey's economy was already on the table before the sanctions, before Brunson was also in play, because Turkey right now has the following issues. It has inflation, which has been a problem under Erdogan for a while. It's also seen overlending in some of its sectors, which has also weakened the economy. So I think that Erdogan will be under some pressure, but I don't think he's going to give in to Trump. He's not the kind of political leader who will do that. This is a man who believes he is right. This is a leader who believes that he can also lead the Muslim world, and he's not going to back down from an American threat.
So, Nicolai, let's talk about alliances then. Do you see stronger ties between Turkey and Russia? I know that Lavrov was just there. Some are predicting there'll be stronger, warmer ties between Turkey and the European Union. Where do you see him going? What direction will he go if the relationship with the United States is strained?
I think right now we will see Erdogan focusing a lot more on his ties with the Middle East. I'm sure you're aware that the state of Qatar has just pledged $15 billion worth of investments in Turkey. Erdogan and the Emir of Qatar had a 3-hour meeting to discuss this. Now, this is a very important point because Qatar itself is currently being blockaded by Saudi Arabia. And so when a state like Qatar extends $15 billion, it's sending a message that it views Turkey as an ally, it views Turkey as a partner that is also now under siege, and that Turkey has friends, it is not alone.
Nicolai, thanks so much for joining us from London. Really appreciate it.